Hello friends, we are here with the Global Woman radio talk show, and this is the first one. I remember when I started the Global Woman magazine, the first person that I interviewed for my magazine was Judy Piatkus. And this is what it came in my mind when I was thinking carefully, who is going to be the first one for my radio show? Judy Piatkus, you brought me a lot of luck. Obviously you are a very successful woman, an entrepreneur, a role model for many women that have been following your work. You started your business in your bedroom when you were pregnant with your second child, and that was Piatkus Books, a fantastic, very successful publishing house that has been inspiring and keeps inspiring people that are interested in self-development and to explore more about how can they grow themselves. Well, I have learned a lot from what you have done and what you keep doing as well, because after you sold your Piatkus books very successfully, now you are an angel investor. You are doing amazing work to bring more conscious to the world, something that we really need, especially women. And your Conscious Cafe is also another thing that is leading a new path, because with Piatkus you were a pioneer in the field of self-development. Now you are bringing this to a higher level, and this is Conscious Cafe. So for this reason and for many other reasons that you make me feel always inspired every time that I meet you, I wanted to give this gift to our audience, because every time that I experience something good for myself, I just want to share it with other people. So thank you for accepting the invitation to be here.
Oh, Mirela, thank you for inviting me, and I am very inspired by everything that Global Woman has achieved since we first began to talk about it. And it's thrilling that global women in so many countries and so many cities can connect together and raise consciousness about women in business and women making a success of their lives and women achieving all that they're capable of, because that's what we've been struggling to do for quite some time now. But I feel that this is going to be our time, and that's very exciting.
We discuss a lot today about our time topics. Can you describe the time that we are living in? How would you describe it? What is this, our time?
I think we are living in very, very exciting times. Well, first of all, if we think that 20 years ago, people were only just getting computers in their offices and in their homes, and the computer was not a major part of people's lives. Many children at school didn't have access to a computer. And then in 2005, Facebook was launched, and in 2007, Facebook became available to anybody who wanted to have a page, and that was a massively exciting adventure. But now when we look at social media, and of course Facebook is not just the only social media that we're all using, there are new ways of communicating and connecting with each other coming along all the time. So we live in a completely different world, and this is very much because of technology. So technology has changed our lives, and it infiltrates our lives every second of the day. We have to learn to control it. But the positive side of technology is that it brings us all closer. And what we need to do is find ways of harnessing what we've been given as a gift for the betterment of humanity. So our time is definitely about the technology revolution, and that means that we can see and know and begin to gain understanding of people in every part of the world and how they live. And we need to think together about how we can improve the world we live in. And so there's a huge movement of people caring about the world in a way that we never had the opportunity to do before, because we didn't have access to learn so much about other lands, other people, other cultures.
Wow, that's very powerful, and I definitely agree with you for the impact that technology is having in our life and in the world. And how do you remember the way that Piatkus books started to change with the technology? Because sometimes when people are used with their traditional way, and a lot of businesses have failed only because they found it very difficult to embrace technology. But you, an avant-garde woman, you probably knew from the beginning that if you need to move to the next level, you have to learn about technology. Was it difficult for you to bring it in your company and your business?
Well, it wasn't difficult, but we were early adopters of technology, because when people choose to work in publishing, it's usually because they want to work with words and they don't want to work with machines. And so one of the reasons that people in publishing found it harder to embrace technology, and particularly handheld readers, and all the e-books and everything that went with it, which actually happened after I'd sold my company, people found it more difficult because they weren't used to working with technology and weren't naturally drawn to do that. But I think it's really important for everyone who has a business and everyone who is in business, everyone who's in the workplace, to be aware all the time of different developments in the field that you're working in, because you need to know for yourself what's new and what's happening. And there are opportunities in companies that are starting up all the time. So if you think your company is really slow and you've pointed this out to them and you've suggested that they need to get a move on, then you might want to consider looking elsewhere. So we all have to be vigilant about new developments.
That's amazing. But sometimes, you know, Judy, people resist change, and they feel very comfortable in their box. But according to you, first of all, why people get stuck in their stagnation zone and they are afraid of taking actions and change? And if someone is listening to this interview and wants to change, what would be your advice?
I think we need to recognize that in this life, the life that you have, wherever you are listening to this interview, you may not necessarily be meant to be a leader. So we don't all have to be leaders of other people, and being a leader for other people can be a very uncomfortable place to be, and that's why many people don't choose it. Some of us are more happy being followers, but we do have to be the leader of our own life. So we do have the choices to lead the life we want to the best of our ability. We have different choices at different times, but at every moment we have a choice about how to think. So we might take the view that we're having to work in an organization that we'd really rather not be, but there might be many pragmatic reasons. But we can still choose the attitude that we come to work with, and it may be that one attitude will make us happier than another attitude. I think if you talk about fear of change, I think that the most important thing is to recognize that you have that fear, because some of us don't recognize it. We're so used to thinking in certain ways that we don't realize that what we're experiencing is fear. So when you've recognized it, then you have a choice what to be fearful about, how you might overcome that, whether you want to continue to live in fear. For example, you might choose to turn off the television news more often. I heard an interesting statistic yesterday, which is that if you're watching bad news on the television, if you just watch it once, then you're informed and you know it happened. But if you continue to watch it, then it begins to have a very negative effect on your psyche. So then you need to think about, do I really want to live my life in fear? And if I don't, I have choices.
That's very interesting. You reminded me a conversation with my son, because he's very curious to know everything about what is happening into the world. And I belong in that category, that I just need to know what is happening and that's it. If I don't have control on what is happening, I can't do anything. So we better focus on what we have a say and control rather than what we can't change anything. So I was having this conversation with my son, and then he said, well, you mom, you don't belong into this reality. You are not realistic. You don't live, it looks like you don't live in this reality. And I said, excuse me? What reality you are talking about? For me, reality is something that we can create. So the reality for me, yes, it is a reality where people are fighting or suffering or struggling. But also there is another reality that people are thriving, are bringing peace, are thinking positive, and are bringing positive impact into the world. So it's now my choice which reality I want to belong. So because we can see both realities exist, then it's my choice to choose which. I know the other reality exists as well, but do I want to belong there? And if I keep following that reality, do I have a say? As Mother Teresa used to say, if you want to stop the war, stop talking about the war, but start talking about peace. So we can't fight the darkness, fighting the darkness, but we can fight the darkness, bringing the light in. And I really resonated with what you said. I would like to know your input about that.
I think that's a wonderful quote from Mother Teresa, Mirela, and thank you for sharing that. Because we need to find within ourselves greater tolerance of difference. And we can't necessarily influence those people who are responsible for running their countries. But nevertheless, because of technology, when there is a groundswell of public opinion, leaders do pay attention. And there's absolutely no doubt that most people in the world don't want war. We really don't want war. But if we're not in a position to influence governments, then we need to look at ourselves and look at our own lives and think, are we tolerating all the people who we meet every day? Are we able to tolerate difference? Because when we grow up, if we grow up in a family who find it hard to tolerate difference, then sometimes we find it hard as well. And then we need to recognize when our thoughts are very judgmental. All of us are human beings, and we really are, at root, we are really the same. And when we're trading with each other, when we're doing business with each other, when we're going on holiday and being tourists and having a wonderful time, we tend to see the good in people. Of course, if you're trading with someone who isn't being honest or fair with you, that's no good. But otherwise, people want to trade, they want to do business, they want to learn about each other. And we need to bring that into every aspect of our lives in the most positive way we can. But all of us find it difficult sometimes. We need to recognize when we're finding it difficult and be aware and work at having peaceful thoughts. And we never know how the work that we do, thinking about peace, impacts on people who are the decision makers.
Wow. That's, you know, when I hear women like you talking, it just gives me the confirmation that women are probably those who are bringing some hope to this planet, that we still can do something to bring more peace, to bring more stability. And let's have a break, and I want to talk about this.
Thank you, Mirela.